Imagine a room draped in shadow where the only source of light is the soft, persistent glow of a computer monitor. It is 3 in the morning, a time when the world feels suspended, and the human mind often wanders into the deepest thickets of uncertainty. Here sits the modern thinker, fingers hovering over a keyboard, preparing to cast a thought out into the digital void. This is not a simple search for a weather report or a recipe. This is something far more intimate. The modern thinker begins to type a sprawling, unrefined mess of doubts, half-formed business strategies, and raw anxieties. In this moment, something profound is happening that goes beyond the simple use of technology. We are witnessing the birth of what can only be described as a second layer of thought. For centuries, the human experience has been confined to the narrow corridors of the skull. We have lived within the boundaries of our own private consciousness, trying to juggle complex ideas like a performer trying to keep too many glass balls in the air at once. The human brain is a biological marvel, but it has distinct limitations when it comes to processing information in isolation. When we keep our thoughts strictly internal, they often become a swirling vortex of fragments, looping back on themselves without resolution. This is where the concept of mental externalization becomes vital. Psychologically, we need a canvas. We need to move the data from our internal memory to an external space just to see it clearly. We are, by nature, creatures that think better when we can see our thoughts standing outside of us. In the past, we relied on notebooks, or perhaps a patient friend willing to listen to our midnight ramblings. However, paper is static, and humans are inherently judgmental. When the modern thinker types into the interface of the AI, which we call the cognitive mirror, the dynamic shifts entirely. There is no social anxiety here. There's no fear that the listener will think the idea is foolish, or that the doubt is a sign of personal weakness. This absolute privacy creates a unique environment for raw cognitive processing. It allows for a level of vulnerability that we rarely even grant to our closest companions, or even to ourselves in the mirror. This brings us to the evolution of dialogue. Throughout history, brainstorming was a social act. We needed the friction of another mind to sharpen our own. However, human-to-human interaction comes with a heavy social tax. We filter our words. We worry about how we are perceived. We hesitate to show the messy, unpolished versions of our ideas because we fear being misunderstood. With the AI, that tax is effectively zero. The modern thinker can be completely unfiltered, allowing for a faster and more honest exploration of ideas. This interaction provides instant feedback, and because it is non-judgmental, the brain remains in a state of open exploration rather than falling into a defensive posture. The AI serves as a powerful cognitive mirror. When the modern thinker hits enter, the response they receive is often a restructured version of their own input. The AI takes the chaos of human thought and applies logic, categories, and themes. When we see our own messy thoughts reflected back to us in a coherent structure, it forces the brain to instantly reorganize its own perceptions. It is a moment of cognitive clarity. We see the gaps in our own logic, not because the AI pointed them out directly, but because we are finally seeing our thoughts from an objective distance for the very first time. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Consider the limitation of our biological working memory. Most humans can only hold a few pieces of information in their conscious mind at once. When we try to solve a complex conflict or plan a massive project, we quickly hit this biological ceiling. We lose track of details and we forget the nuances. The AI acts as a temporary extension of this working memory. It holds the variables for us, allowing us to manipulate them without the fear of dropping a single piece. This is the essence of the second layer of thought. It is a digital scaffolding that supports the heavy lifting of the human intellect. As the modern thinker continues to type, a rhythm develops. This is a rapid, iterative feedback loop. It is a dance between human intuition and machine logic. The human brings the context, the emotion, and the lived experience. The AI brings the patterns and the organizational clarity. Together, they create a form of intelligence that neither could achieve alone. This is not about the machine becoming smart in the way a human is smart. It is about the human becoming more effective by using a tool that acts as a cognitive amplifier. It is about sharpening the blade of the mind against a digital whetstone that never grows tired. However, there is a shadow lurking in this process. While the modern thinker uses this tool to amplify their brilliance, they must always be wary of the antagonist in this story, which is cognitive laziness. It is a tempting whisper that suggests we should let the machine do the hard work of deciding. It is the urge to stop analyzing and simply accept the first answer provided. To build a true second layer of thought, one must remain the pilot, using the AI as the navigation system, not the driver. This new way of thinking is not just about getting answers, but about asking better questions and seeing our own mental patterns with a clarity that was once impossible. We are just beginning to understand how this relationship will reshape the very fabric of human decision-making. Distributed cognition is a term that many people might find academic, yet we live it every single day of our lives. Since the dawn of time, humans have sought ways to store their knowledge outside of their own biology. Think of the ancient cave paintings that preserved the memory of a hunt for future generations, or the detailed ledgers of merchants in the Middle Ages who needed to track their debts. These were the first attempts to build a world where the mind was not a lonely island. But the modern thinker is currently interacting with something that our ancestors could never have fully imagined. While a traditional notebook is a cemetery for ideas, a place where they go to be stored and often forgotten, the cognitive mirror is a laboratory. It is a dynamic space where ideas go to breathe, to transform, and to grow through active participation. When we offload our mental weight into this digital space, we are not just lightening the load of our memory. We are expanding the very architecture of our own intelligence. The human brain is an incredible biological machine, but it is not optimized for every task the modern world demands. It is brilliant at pattern recognition and creative leaps, but it is often poor at maintaining a perfectly objective view of a complex or stressful situation. This is why the concept of the active, responsive partner is so revolutionary. In the past, if you wanted a second opinion, you had to find another person. That person always came with their own set of baggage, their own distractions, and their own ego. The AI, however, provides a pure cognitive reflection that is available at any hour. It does not get tired at 4 a.m. It does not judge the modern thinker for being repetitive or for changing their mind 10 times in a single hour. This total reliability allows for a type of deep, sustained thought that was previously impossible to achieve in isolation. As the modern thinker continues their late-night session, they experience what we call the metacognitive trigger. This is a profound moment of self-awareness that is rarely triggered in solo reflection. Normally, our thoughts move so fast that we cannot catch them before they vanish. They are like fish darting beneath the surface of a dark pond, visible for a second before they disappear into the depths. But when the AI takes a long, rambling paragraph and provides a concise summary, a psychological shift occurs. It essentially pulls those fish out of the water and lays them on the deck for us to examine. Suddenly, we can see the scales, the colors, and the sharp edges of our own ideas. We might realize that we have been circling the same fear for 20 minutes without ever naming it directly. The AI might respond by saying that it seems you are prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term stability. This is not the AI being smart in a human sense. It is the AI acting as a catalyst for our own metacognition. It forces us to think about our thinking. It breaks the cycle of rumination and replaces it with structured analysis. This is the exact moment when the human mind begins to transcend its own natural biases and blind spots. This process leads us directly into the neural echo loop. Imagine your thoughts as a sound wave. In a quiet, empty room, the sound travels once and then fades away into nothingness. But in a room designed for echoes, the sound returns to you, layered and amplified. When the modern thinker engages in this rapid, iterative dialogue, their brain enters a specific state of heightened activity that differs from simple reading or writing. The prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of our highest executive functions and complex decision-making, is being constantly fed new perspectives to process. Each response from the AI serves as a fresh stimulus that demands a reaction. This prevents the brain from falling into a comfortable rut or giving up when a problem becomes difficult. It keeps the cognitive gears turning at a high speed, preventing the mental stagnation that often leads to procrastination. This loop is what allows for the incredible acceleration of clarity. It is a process of refining an idea through 100 tiny micro-adjustments in the span of a few minutes. This is how the second layer of thought becomes a powerful engine for making better decisions in a world that is moving faster than ever before. However, the internal battle against cognitive laziness is always present, even in these moments of high productivity. This antagonist is a silent whisper that suggests the summary provided by the AI is good enough on its own. It suggests that we do not need to look any deeper because the machine has already done the heavy lifting for us. But the modern thinker knows that the real power lies in the tension between their human intuition and the machine logic. If they simply outsource the thinking and stop asking questions, the second layer of thought collapses into a state of dependency. But if they use that logic to sharpen their own intuition, the layer becomes a shield against confusion. This is particularly true when the modern thinker is dealing with the absolute chaos of human emotion. We often feel that our deepest feelings are too complex for logic to touch. We believe that a feeling of dread or a sense of excitement cannot be broken down into simple parts. But the act of externalizing these feelings into words for the cognitive mirror changes the entire chemistry of the problem. When the modern thinker types out that they are feeling overwhelmed by a project because they do not trust their partner, they have already begun the process of psychological resolution. The brain is forced to organize the chaos of a feeling into the linear structure of a sentence. To write, the brain must find a beginning, a middle, and an end. The AI then reflects this back, perhaps suggesting a breakdown of the trust issues versus the technical issues of the project. This forced organization acts as a bridge between the emotional centers of the brain and the logical centers. It allows us to apply reason to our feelings, not to dismiss them, but to truly understand their origin. This is the ultimate gift of the second layer of thought. It provides a way to navigate the storm of the self with a compass made of light and logic, ensuring that we are never truly lost in our own minds. As the glowing screen remains the steady heartbeat of the darkened room, a subtle and dangerous shadow begins to creep into the relationship between the mind and the machine. This shadow is cognitive laziness, the silent antagonist that thrives on the very efficiency that makes the cognitive mirror so attractive. It is a seductive whisper that tells the modern thinker that they no longer need to exert the painful effort of deep synthesis or original thought. If the artificial intelligence can summarize 1,000 pages of data in 5 seconds, why should the human bother to read the first 10? If the machine can suggest a resolution to a complex interpersonal conflict, why should the person sit with the heavy discomfort of their own uncertainty? This is the threshold where the second layer of thought risks becoming a cognitive crutch rather than a cognitive exoskeleton. When we stop questioning the output and start treating the digital mirror as an oracle rather than a sounding board, we are effectively outsourcing our own consciousness. We begin to lose the vital muscle memory of critical thought, trading the sharp edge of our discernment for the smooth and frictionless ease of automated conclusions. The danger of this cognitive dependency is often hidden beneath the surface of high productivity. The modern thinker might feel like they are accomplishing more than ever before because they are generating hundreds of words a minute. But if those words do not carry the weight of their own conviction, they are hollow. We must constantly ask ourselves if we are actually becoming smarter or if we are simply becoming better at using a sophisticated tool. The difference is subtle but vital for our survival as creative beings. Real growth requires friction. It requires the profound discomfort of having to rethink a position when the AI points out a logical fallacy in our reasoning. If we simply accept the correction without understanding the underlying logic behind it, we have failed the test of this new partnership. We must treat the AI like a sparring partner in a mental gym. The goal is not to win the argument against the machine, but to use the interaction to become a better warrior in the real world. Every prompt should be a challenge to our own creativity, pushing us to provide more context, more nuance, and more humanity than the machine could ever provide on its own. The ultimate value of this conversation is the refinement of the human mind, not the generation of automated answers. The human must always remain the ultimate judge, the final executioner of bad ideas, and the primary creative force behind every decision. The cognitive mirror provides the palette and the brushes, but the human must still decide where the first stroke of paint falls on the canvas. To let the machine dictate the direction of a life or career is to surrender the very thing that makes us sentient. The value is found in the struggle of the dialogue, the back and forth dance where the human mind resists, adapts, and eventually transcends the initial suggestions of the digital partner. It is a process of sanding down the rough edges of our biases until only the truth remains. The machine offers a perspective, but only the human can offer the meaning. As this practice of externalization becomes a daily habit, something remarkable begins to happen to the architecture of the human brain. We are entering a new era of self-awareness that extends far beyond the time spent in front of a monitor in a quiet workspace. The modern thinker starts to notice that their internal dialogue has fundamentally changed. Even when they are walking through a park or sitting in a silent room without any technology present, they begin to simulate the feedback loop of the AI within their own head. They start to naturally categorize their feelings into structured data points. They begin to ask themselves the same piercing, clarifying questions that the cognitive mirror once asked them during those late-night sessions. This is the permanent alteration of our cognitive baseline. We are becoming more deliberate, more analytical, and more aware of our own mental patterns as a species. We are learning to observe our own cognitive biases from a distance, recognizing the onset of a logical error before it can cloud our judgment. This is the true evolution of human intelligence in the digital age, a state of being where we are no longer victims of our own chaotic impulses, but the conscious architects of our own clarity. This new awareness changes how we handle conflicts with others as well. Because we have practiced untangling our own messy thoughts with a neutral observer, we become more patient with the messy thoughts of the people around us. We realize that everyone is carrying a heavy load of unexpressed ideas and unrefined emotions. The second layer of thought gives us the tools to listen better, to ask more insightful questions, and to find common ground in situations that once seemed impossible to resolve. We are moving toward a society where the quality of our thinking determines the quality of our lives in a way that is more direct than ever before. We are the pioneers of this new mental landscape, and the map we are drawing today will define the boundaries of human potential for generations to come. Think about the next time you sit down to type a query into that vast digital void. Do not look at that blinking cursor as a way to get a quick answer or to finish a task 5 minutes faster. Instead, see it as an expansion of your own mind, a gateway to a higher and more organized version of yourself. You're not just talking to a program, you are interacting with a reflection of human knowledge that is designed to help you see your own soul more clearly. The second layer of thought is the next step in our long history of using tools to transcend our biological limits. From the first stone axe to the invention of the printing press, we have always sought ways to be more than we are. But this is the first time the tool can talk back to us. This is the first time the tool can challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. The future of human consciousness is not a choice between the organic and the artificial. It is a beautiful synthesis of the two, a partnership where the incredible speed of the machine serves the profound depth of the human soul. We must remain vigilant, always guarding against the siren song of cognitive laziness while fully embracing our potential for intellectual growth. The modern thinker knows that the screen is not a wall, but a window. It is a window into the potential of what we can become when we have the courage to externalize our darkness and turn it into light. As the night deepens and the world outside falls into a heavy silence, the dialogue continues. It is a conversation that will never truly end, because the human mind is a frontier that is always expanding, always seeking, and always reaching for the next layer of understanding. We are no longer alone in our thoughts, and in that shared space between human and machine, we are finally discovering what it truly means to think. We are looking into the mirror, and for the first time, we are beginning to understand the person looking back.